The couple saw their neighbors panicking and hurriedly evacuating their homes. Shocked, they came out onto the street to see everyone running frantically, as if the world were about to end. Jason didn't know what had happened, but as a precaution, he decided to take his family and leave. But on the way, they saw the neighbors who had fled return. Things became even more strange. Jason's family grew restless until they were stuck in traffic. Then they learned that the army had closed the only road out of town. A helicopter in the sky repeatedly announced that a sudden outbreak had occurred in the city, and all residents were told to return home immediately. Jason realized they were completely isolated. Just then, a stone fell from the sky, and the family looked up, surrounded by a cloud of dust. 2 fighter planes flew towards their town with a loud noise. Everyone was shocked when they started bombing directly. Jason's wife, Beth, immediately understood that if they had obeyed the army and returned home, the consequences would have been dire. Just then, the planes turned and began heading towards the people walking on the road. Everyone now understood that the army wanted to kill everyone. Beth saw the school on the hill and immediately began climbing with the family. The planes had already started bombing for the second time from behind. Fortunately, they were fast and escaped the blast wave. Staggering, they reached the school and banged loudly on the bunker door. The sound of the planes grew louder in the distance. As soon as the bunker door closed, there was a huge explosion overhead. What kind of virus was it that forced the army to take such drastic action? Jason's family, unable to understand anything, took refuge in the bunker for the time being. The good thing was that there was a large quantity of expired food stored there, enough to last 3 people. His wife, Beth, was distraught. She had cut her palm while closing the door. He didn't know if she had contracted the virus, but now was not the time to think about it. Jason locked the bunker door tightly with an iron chain and decided to hide there for a few days. But life underground wasn't easy. The same tinned food every day and muddy underground well water to drink. In their free time, they played cards and hide and seek. This life, completely cut off from the world, felt like the end of the world for Jason's family. His daughter was the first to endure this life. She asked, "Dad, how long will we stay here?" Jason had no answer. He simply said, "We'll go back out again when the virus is gone and life flourishes again." Little did they know that this wait would drag on for 300 days. The daughter repeatedly peered out of the ventilation duct through the reflective mirror her mother had made. But each time, she saw the same world, charred to ashes by the bombing. There was no sign of life anywhere. Seeing all this, the little girl began to think that perhaps they were the last living people in this world. Her mother consoled her. "Maybe your friends are hiding somewhere, just like us." Just then, the girl opened a tin can that was empty inside. There was a small hole in the back. Perhaps something had stolen the food from it. Beth examined all the remaining tins. All 12 were empty. This was their 2 weeks' worth of food. It was natural to feel sad. Beth looked at the ventilation duct and guessed that perhaps a rat had come in and taken the food. Seeing her daughter's sad face, Jason immediately consoled her. "Don't sweat the small stuff. Even if the food runs out, I'll go upstairs and get some groceries." That night, while the girl was playing blocks with her mother, a faint noise came from behind. A rat had sneaked in again to steal the tinned food. Jason, furious, was about to take out his knife and slice it to pieces, but the little creature was incredibly nimble. It had almost escaped the hole when Beth suddenly pounced on it and knocked it out. But before the family could even celebrate, a pungent, pepper-like smell spread throughout. The rat had actually knocked over an oil lamp while running away, and it was now ablaze. Jason ran to turn it off, but the burning iron burned his hand, causing him to scream. The temperature kept rising, and finally, the lamp's lid burst, spilling the kerosene, igniting a fire. Beth tore open the curtain and tried to extinguish the flames. Jason scooped up half a bucket of water from a stone tap and poured it on the fire. The fire was brought under control thanks to the efforts of the husband and wife. When they went to find their daughter hiding under the bed, they saw her looking straight ahead in a mirror. Smoke was actually billowing out of a ventilation duct, which could have exposed their whereabouts. Everyone held their breath. Jason was the first to speak, suggesting that perhaps the darkness of night would conceal the smoke. The 3 remained awake the entire night, terrified. Fortunately, nothing unexpected happened. However, Jason noticed through the reflective mirror that a thick layer of burnt soot had accumulated on it. This meant that the smoke had gone out, but the soot must have settled around the ventilation duct, preventing them from being caught. The husband and wife decided to go outside and clean up. They unlocked the door, listened carefully for sounds outside, and when they were convinced it was quiet, they opened the bunker door together. The daughter was now alone inside, but after waiting for a long time, her parents had not returned, so he climbed onto a stool and began observing the situation outside through a reflecting telescope. She saw her parents trying to hide behind the bunker door, but then, in the distance, a dark shadow slithered rapidly through the forest. The girl screamed loudly, asking her father to look behind her. But the distance was too great. Her parents couldn't hear. In a panic, the girl forgot her fear and climbed the stairs and ran out of the bunker. As soon as she came out, she realized that her parents were no longer there. The girl began calling out in desperation. Then suddenly, a pair of hands appeared before her. These were her hidden parents. Before the girl could even speak, a herd of wild deer suddenly came running past. Although the three of them narrowly escaped, Beth's worry increased. The deer's flight was surely an attempt to escape something dangerous. Everyone sensed the danger and quickly ran back to the bunker. Jason closed the bunker door with wooden planks and secured it tightly with an iron chain. After ensuring safety, he signaled everyone to remain quiet and concentrated on listening for sounds outside. Footsteps could be heard clearly from upstairs, as if someone had sensed something unusual. They were constantly pacing the bunker, searching for something. A little girl burst into tears in fear. Beth kept trying to calm her down, telling her that if the sound got outside, everything would be over. Jason immediately stepped forward and tried everything to distract her. Gradually, the girl calmed down. Beth's eyes remained fixed on the ventilation duct, and her heart was pounding. Suddenly, there was a loud crash from upstairs, followed by the echo of heavy footsteps. Jason followed the sounds, and finally, they stopped right above their bunker. Sweat beaded on his forehead. What they feared had finally arrived. Someone was banging on the bunker's metal lid, and despite being chained shut, the danger was palpable. But the creature above seemed convinced there was someone inside. With a series of powerful blows, the pillars holding the iron chain of the bunker door began to break. The door wouldn't hold for much longer. Beth mustered courage. She climbed the ladder and, using her body weight, tried to pull the chain to keep the door closed. But even then, the iron lid slowly began to open. Just then, a pair of glowing green eyes peered inside. The little girl screamed in fear. Just then, Jason forcefully broke an iron pipe and rammed it into the door's edge with all his might. The pressure from above suddenly vanished. Together, the husband and wife closed the bunker again. Even though the sound of footsteps outside had faded away, Jason's body still trembled violently. He could never have imagined that the outside world was teeming with not only ruthless soldiers but also dangerous monsters. The family sat by the stairs, completely disheartened. Now their hideout was exposed, and new attacks were expected at any moment. It wasn't long before the storeroom cupboards began shaking, and the sound of heavy footsteps echoed overhead, as if thousands of creatures were circling overhead. Then they all gathered at the bunker door and launched a fierce attack. This time, the force was greater than before. The sturdy iron door shattered, and countless eyes shone at the dark entrance of the bunker. Jason's family retreated in fear, but Wayne couldn't stop the monsters. Jason threw his oil lamp and pressed the storeroom against the door, but that wasn't enough for long. Just then, the girl spotted a ventilation duct leading to the ground. Jason broke it with all his might and pushed his wife and daughter out. However, when he tried to escape himself, he was stuck in the tight space. The monsters were about to enter the bunker. Jason twisted his own arm and broke it. Beth wasted no time, and began pulling Jason out with all her strength. Just as Jason was about to escape, a giant foot finally burst through the wall of fire and grabbed Jason. There was no hope of escape. Jason told his wife to take care of his daughter, and the next moment he was pulled into the bunker by the monster. Beth and her daughter, desperate, ran towards the tunnel. The sounds of a fierce struggle still echoed from below. Beth knew her husband was fighting to buy them time. Despite the pain, she pulled her daughter out. But as they ran, they felt something strange. The highway that opened to the outside world. Now, there was a high wall. Just then, a helicopter flew in from a distance, and its bright spotlight completely exposed her daughter. Now, they had no way to escape. Then a huge net fell from the sky and tightly encircled Beth Foss's daughter. Through the net's mesh, she saw dark shadows with green eyes approaching them. It was then that Beth realized these Sovquiem were actually soldiers in protective suits. But now both mother and daughter were at their mercy. One of the soldiers took out a large injection and injected them into their necks one by one. As drops of black blood began to flow, the soldier announced that both were infected. At his command, all the soldiers drew their weapons and prepared to kill the mother and daughter on the spot. In fact, when the virus first spread, many residents of this small town had already been affected. This virus spread through the air and its infection was rapid. It spread incredibly quickly. Those infected didn't even know they were sick. The army had only one way to stop the virus: ruthlessly eliminate the infected. When Beth realized that these soldiers wouldn't even spare her little daughter, she was completely enraged. Black marks began to appear on her face. But before she could do anything, a fountain of blood spurted from one soldier's neck. It was none other than Jason, who had just been hanged from death. At this moment, his eyes slowly turned red. His physical strength also increased many times over. It was clear that Jason had transformed into his post-infection form, but he couldn't stop the hot weapon's bullets and fell to the ground, gasping. Fortunately, During this chaos, Beth and his daughter managed to escape from the trap. The soldiers scattered around, searching for them, but they had no idea that Beth had also transformed into a demon. She quickly killed a few soldiers, but then she herself was shot and fell to the roof of the car. Her daughter, hidden in the darkness, witnessed all this. Seeing her parents' condition, she too became enraged and transformed. With one leap, she knocked down a soldier and was about to kill him when Beth stopped her just in time. She didn't want her daughter to become a monster. He calmed her emotions. Gradually, the greenness in the girl's veins vanished, and she transformed back into a human. But the soldier's fate was not so good. His protective shield had broken, and he slowly became infected with the virus. Alas, Jason's condition was very serious. Looking at his daughter's face, he said goodbye in his familiar tone and closed his eyes forever. Just then, another helicopter arrived. Beth took her daughter and ran away. While hiding in a pile of junk, they discovered a secret underground tunnel. Suddenly, a light shone on them. Upon looking, they discovered the young boy from the neighborhood. They followed him, and at a turn, they found a door to an underground cellar. Several acquaintances were hiding there. In fact, many survivors were there. To survive, they were forced to live like rats in the dark. The main character's family was fleeing the monsters daily, but in reality, they themselves had become monsters in the eyes of their neighbors. If we consider their account, it seems they already knew they were infected, and that they could transform if they entered. That's why they repeatedly told their daughter not to enter. So, friends, today's story ends here. If you liked it, stay tuned. We'll see you next time.